I told the kids that I was going to do a video, like a life video, like Bubby did. And one of them suggested, I'm not even sure which one of them suggested that I read the old books that we used to read. And that's how that happened. And I said, okay, because it was, I thought it was very sweet. I thought it would be easy, that it wouldn't take that much time, and I thought that it would give, it would help them remember me. And I thought that if they ever have nieces or nephews or grandchildren or something like that, that I would be more than just a picture on the wall that was my grandfather, and that they'd have a sense of who I was. And so I thought that that would be very helpful, very worthwhile. I would have liked to have known a lot about my grandfather, like who I was named after. You know, I mean, I didn't even really understand. My grandfather was named Jacob. My name is basically Jacob, although they switched my name at the last minute, but my middle name is Jacob. And I didn't really even understand that until I read your little book snippet that you wrote for my mom, that Jacob was my mother's grandfather. And I'm 63. So I mean, I'd seen that picture, and I'd been told that that was who I was named after, and that other people like Chucky and Michael and others have been named after Jacob. But I never really knew anything. I wasn't even sure that that was Jacob. I thought it was, but all I had known was a picture. And that seemed unnecessary and insufficient and short and inadequate. Hi, Joshua and Daniel. This is just a little introduction. I'm going to read some books, some of the books that we enjoyed the most, the ones that we used to read when we were putting you to bed, when you were little kids. And thanks for the suggestion, and it's been fun to do this. And so we're going to start out with one of my favorites, Barnyard Dance. Okay, bye guys. Love. Barnyard Dance by Sandra Boynton. Here's all the little animals. This is the rooster, and the sheep, and the pig, and the duck, and the cow. And this book was written in 1993, which is the year Joshua was born. Stomp your feet, clap your hands. Everybody ready for a barnyard dance. Bow to the horse. Bow to the cow. Twirl with the pig, if you know how. The pig looks a little shocked. Bounce with the bunny. Strut with the duck. Spin with the chickens. Now cluck, cluck, cluck. With a baa and a moo and a cock-a-doodle-doo, everybody promenade 2 by 2. See, here's this animal and this animal, and then they switch over. So this is the sheep with the pig, and here's the goat with the pig. So they're kind of switching partners. Or they're also with their natural partner. Prance with the horses, skitter with the mice, swing with your partner once or twice. The little animals who are getting swung seem a little disconcerted. Stand with the donkey, slide with the sheep, scramble with the little chicks, cheep, cheep, cheep. I wonder what happened to him. He's left out. With a neigh and a moo and a cock-a-doodle-doo, another little promenade 2 by 2. I think now they changed partners. Now the horse is with the pig. Trot with the turkey, leap with the frog, take another spin with the barnyard dog. It's nice how she did everything like this. It's all sort of gray and white, except for this and that. She showed some restraint. Turn with the cow in a patch of clover, all take a bow, and the dance is over. With an oink, and a moo, and a quack, 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 the dance is done, but we'll be back. That's it, Sandra Boynton Barnyard Dance. Okay, Josh and Daniel, and any future grandchildren or others who might be wanting to hear this, I'd like to read and plan to read If I Ran the Circus by Dr. Seuss. Now, Dr. Seuss, his real name was Theodore Geisel, and he gave himself this name, Dr. Seuss. So at the same time he gave himself the name, he also gave himself a doctorate. But no one seems to complain about that he calls himself a doctor. And so this is the opening page. It says, McGurkus, 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 McGurkus. And you can see it's quite a show that he's putting on. This book was written in 1956, which was the year that I was born. So it's 63 years old, this book. And he dedicates it as follows. This book is for my dad, Big Ted of Springfield. That's Springfield, Illinois. No, it's Springfield, Massachusetts, actually. The finest man I'll ever know. In all the whole town, the most wonderful spot is behind Sneelock's store in the big vacant lot. It's just the right spot for my wonderful plans, said young Morris McGurk. If I clean up the cans. Here's old Sneelock, and it looks like he's selling the cans that ended up in the lot. Now, a fellow like me, said young Morris McGurk, could get rid of this junk with a half hour's work. I could yank up those weeds and chop down the dead tree and haul off those old cars. There are just 2 or 3. And then the whole place would be ready, you see. So he's got to clean up the platform, take out the old cars, chop down the tree, remove the cans. So the lot would be all ready to put up the tents for my circus. I think I will call it the Circus McGurkus. Which probably explains why his name was, he gave him the name McGurkus. The Circus McGurkus, the world's greatest show on the face of the earth or wherever you go. The Circus McGurkus, the cream of the cream. The Circus McGurkus, the circus supreme. The Circus McGurkus, colossal, stupendous, astounding, fantastic, terrific, tremendous. I'll bring in my acrobats, jugglers, and clowns from 1,033 faraway towns to the place that you'll see 'em in, ladies and gents, right behind Sneelock's store in the great McGurk tents. There's Sneelock. He's not even paying attention yet. And I don't suppose old Mr. Sneelock will mind when he suddenly has a big circus behind. After all, Mr. Sneelock is one of my friends. He might even help out doing small odds and ends. Doing little odd jobs. He could be of some aid, such as selling balloons and the pink lemonade. I think here he is selling the pink lemonade, 500 gallons. So he starts out with a pedestrian sort of job, and as the circus develops, he gets more and more complicated and risky assignments, such as selling balloons and the pink lemonade. I think 500 gallons will be about right, and then I'll be ready for opening night. Welcome. What an opening night. What a night. What a sight. I'll hoist up the curtains. Here he is hoisting up the curtains. The crowd will come in, and my Circus McGurkus will promptly begin. With a welcoming toot on my welcoming horn by my horn-tooting apes from the jungle of Jorn, where the very best horn-tooting apes are all born. 'Cause the very fresh air there is fine for their lungs, and some of those fellows have 2 or 3 tongues. This is such a big horn, they need like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 people just to blow it, and this guy to introduce it. This way, step right in. This way, ladies and gents. My sideshow starts here in the first of my tents. When you see what goes on, you'll say no other circus is half the great circus the Circus McGurkus is. Here on stage 1 from the ocean of Olf is a sight most astounding, a walrus named Rolf, who can stand on 1 whisker, this wonderful Rolf, on top of 5 balls, 2 for tennis, 3 for golf. It's a marvelous trick, if I say so myself. And on stage number 2, here is something quite new. From a country called Frum comes the drum-tummied Snum, who can drum any tune that you might care to hum. Doesn't hurt him a bit, 'cause his drum tummy's numb. And now you'll meet the Foon, the remarkable Foon, who eats sizzling hot pebbles that fall off the moon. The reason he likes them red hot, it appears, is he greatly enjoys blowing smoke from his ears. And of course, pebbles like these are quite hard to collect. But Mr. Sneelock will manage, somehow, I expect. After all, Mr. Sneelock is one of my friends, and I'm sure he'll help out doing small odds and ends. He gives them all the hard jobs and the dangerous jobs. And on stage number 4, we see the wily Waloo, who can throw his long tail as a sort of lasso. With a flip of the hip, with a tail of this kind, he can capture whoever is standing behind. He can capture old Sneelock. I'm sure he won't mind. Here's Morris presenting the act. And now there is a hoodwink who winks in his wink hood. Without a good wink hood, a hoodwink can't wink good. And folks, let me tell you, there's only one circus with wink-hooded hoodwinks, the Circus McGurkus. The show of all shows, there's no other showman who shows you a show with the blindfolded bowman. The blindfolded bowman from Bigger Beirut, the world's sharpest shooter. Look at him shoot. When I read this, I remembered that when Daniel and I did this for his Halloween costume. And this was, I think we had an apple on here. They put it on here, and then he walked around with this sign, William Tell's first try. Unsuccessful. Lucky this guy's better at it. The world's sharpest sharpshooter, look at him shoot. Through the holes in 4 donuts, 2 hairs on a worm. So he goes through these 4 donuts, the 2 hairs on the worm. Worms don't actually have hairs, but alright. And the knees on 3 birds, without making them squirm. And then on through a crabapple, up on the head of Sneelock, who likes to help out, as I've said. And now, come to this spot, where the spotlight is hot. And you'll see in the spotlight a juggling Jot, who can juggle some stuff you might think he could not, such as 22 question marks, which is a lot. Also 44 commas, and also 1 dot. That's the kind of a circus McGurkus I've got. But that's just my sideshow. A start, a beginning. There's McGurkus and there's Sneelock. He's got a better outfit now. A start, a beginning. This way to the big tent, you'll find your head spinning. Why, ladies and gents, youngsters and oldsters, your heads will quite likely spin right off your shoulsters. So hurry, step lively. Quick, ladies and gents, and get into your seats in my tent of all tents. My parade of parades is about to commence. You'll see Drum Major Sneelock fling-flang his baton, and my organ McOrgan McGurkus come on. Here's the organ McOrgan McGurkus with its hot steaming pipes of gold brass plated tin. They're made of gold, but they plated them with brass. Snorting all sorts of snorts in a bumbling din. That is super stupendous, stupendous, stupendous. And when I play Dixie, please join in the chorus. He's always got quite a lot going on. Then the fluff-muffled Tuffle will ride on a huffle. Where is the fluff-muffled Tuffle? Oh, here he is. This is the, but then a fluff-muffled Truffle will ride on a huffle. And next in line, a fine flummox will shuffle. The flummox will carry a lurch in a pail. Where's that? Will carry a, oh, here he is. Will carry a lurch in a pail. And a fibble will carry the flummox's tail. This is a fibble. While on top of the flummox, 3 harp-twanging snarp will twang mighty twangs on their 3-snarper harp. While a bolster blows bloops on a 3-nozzled blueser. That's this guy, a 3-nozzled blueser. And a thing if you fall in the water for safety. A Nolster blows floops on a 1-nozzled newser. That's this dude. And then comes a lion who's partially a trout. Then more stuff for 45 minutes about. And then behind them, then, while everyone stares, come my to and fro marchers, who march in 5 layers. The froes and march on 2s, and the 2 march on froes. Don't know how they do it, But that's how it goes. So you can see them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 layers. That's the only place you can see the 5th layer, all 5 layers at once. And now comes an act of enormous enormance. No former performers performed this performance. This stunt is too grippingly, slippingly frightening. Down from the top of my tent, like grease lightning, through pots full of lots of big sticklebrush trees, slides a man, what a man, on his roller skate skis. And he'll steer without fear, and you'll know at a glance that it's Sneelock, the man who takes chance after chance. And he won't even rip a small hole in his pants. Now here in this cage is a beast most ferocious, who's known far and wide as the spotted atrocious, who growls, howls, and yowls the most blood-curdling sounds, and each tooth in his mouth weighs at least 60 pounds. And he chews up and eats, with the greatest of ease, things like carpets and sidewalks, and people and trees. It's interesting how a circus goes from enormous to that little tiny guy who was juggling the question marks and commas. You know, so it goes from little tiny to very gigantic. Things like carpets and sidewalks and people and trees. But the great Colonel Sneelock is just the right kind of a man who can tame him. I'm sure he won't mind. He doesn't even seem concerned. Then I'll let Sneelock off for a few minutes rest. While high over your heads you will see the best of the world's finest, fanciest, breezy trapezing, my Zuma Zoop troops from West Upper Bendeezing, who never quite know, while they zoop and they zoom, whether which will catch what one, or who will catch whom, or if who will catch which by the what and just where, or just when and just how, in which part of the air. You probably had to work on this for a while. Very complicated. Aye, what a circus, my circus McGurkus. My workers love work. They say, work us, please work us. We'll work and we'll work up so many surprises, you'll never see half if you had 40 eyeses. So there's all sorts of things going on. Here's a rerun of Yertle the Turtle. All sorts of things. Guy juggling with his feet upside down. And now, again Sneelock. Brave Sneelock is back, risking life on my patented life-risking track, while the speedsters I call my colliding collusions race round in swift cars called abrasion contusions. And Sneelock just lies there, not one bit excited. I know he won't mind. He'll be simply delighted. And here, in a contest of brute strength and muscle, Kid Sneelock, my champ of all champs, will now tussle and wrestle a beast called the Grizzly Ghastly and slap him around. Then he'll slam him down fastly and pin both his shoulders tight flat to the mat. Kid Sneelock will love it. I'm sure about that. And while that goes on there, and look at this go on here. Have you heard of my herd of through horns jumping deer? Every deer jumps through horns of another pell-mell, while his horns are jumped through at the same time as well, by a deer whose horns also are being jumped through, by another who's having his horns jumped through too, which I'm sure Trainer Sneelock can train them to do. Then the whole tent will ring with hoorays and wild shouts when I wheel in my whales and they turn on their spouts. First my whale number 1, with an aim that aims true, spouts a spout that spouts Sneelock. So Sneelock's coming out of this whale, number 1. He's spouting out Sneelock. With aim that aims true, spouts a spout that spouts Sneelock to whale number 2. And then whale number 2 spouts his spout like a gun, and that spout spouts old Sneelock right back to whale 1. And then forwards and backwards on spout after spout, my great spout rider Sneelock gets spouted about, just as long as the water their spouting holds out. Then my tournament knights, noble apes without fears, Sir Hector, Sir Vector, Sir Bops and Sir Beers, Sir Hawkins, Sir Dawkins, Sir Jocks and Sir Jeers, chatter into the tent while everyone cheers. Stage a roustabout with their boxing glove spears. So they have like, these aren't really called spears, but what are those things called? I forget. But they put boxing gloves on the bottoms and they can go after each other. Seems like they're enjoying it. And while all this wild ruckusing goes on below, at the top of the tent, look, the star of my show, great daredevil Sneelock, the world's bravest type. He comes pulled through the air by 3 Subrian snipe, on a dingus contraption attached to his pipe. That would be this business. And while people below are all turning chalk white, all biting their fingernails off in their fright, great Sneelock soars to a terrible height. Then he shakes himself loose from this contraption. He starts down in a dive, such as no man on earth could come out of alive. Look how high he is. Here's the crowd. That's how high above the crowd he is. But he smiles as he falls, and no fear does he feel. His nerves are like iron, his muscles like steel. And he plunges down, down, with his hair still combed neat, 4,692 feet. Looks like he lost one of his shoes, or something. Here he is, coming to the last moment. And then he'll land in a fishbowl. He'll manage just fine. Don't ask how he'll manage. That's his job, not mine. Why, he'll be a hero. Of course he won't mind. When he finds out that he has a big circus behind. This book was stupendous, according to the book. Dr. Seuss lived in La Jolla, which is where UC San Diego is, and he donated his papers there, and they changed the name of the Central Library to the Geisel Library in his honor, which is particularly appropriate since if you look up on the internet what the library, what the central library or the Geisel library now looks like, it's quite a Seussian looking building. It goes like this, and then it curves back in and stands on a little base. So it's a little base, and it curves out like a diamond. And at nighttime, when there's nothing else around it, and it's all windows on each level, it looks like a spaceship has landed. Okay, that's If I Ran the Circus by Dr. Seuss. Another one of the great classic children's books, Harold and the Purple Crayon. Now you wonder why they named the kid Harold. But of course, it was written by a guy named Crockett. So maybe that makes sense. Harold and the Purple Crayon. This book was written in 1955. That's 1 year before I was born. So this book is quite a bit older than the other books that we just read. The Wheels on the Bus and the Boynton books. So here's Harold. Harold started out as an abstract artist, or disorganized. One evening, after thinking it over for some time, Harold decided to go for a walk in the moonlight. Unfortunately, there wasn't any moon, and Harold needed a moon for a walk in the moonlight. So he drew a moon. You also want to ask the question, why is it purple? And he needed something to walk on. So he made a long straight path so he wouldn't get lost. And so what happened here is that he just started out like this. This was just random drawing. And then that happened, and then that's the random drawing. And then he just extended that and made it the horizon line. So that's the horizon line, that's his moon. He made a long straight path so he wouldn't get lost. And he set off on his walk, taking his big purple crayon with him. But I wonder, if this book would have been different if it was a blue crayon or a red crayon or an orange crayon. But because what is the meaning of purple? But he didn't seem to be getting anywhere on the long straight path. So he left the path for a shortcut across a field, and the moon went with him. This is the theme in this book. The moon's always there. No matter where he goes, the moon's always with him, just like it is in the real world. The shortcut led right to where Harold thought a forest ought to be. He didn't want to get lost in the woods, so he made a very small forest with just one tree in it. It turned out to be an apple tree. The apples would be very tasty, Harold thought, when they got red. But can a purple apple become red? So he put a frightening dragon under the tree to guard the apples. It was a terribly frightening dragon. He almost made like a Garden of Eden, put an apple tree in there. And there was a frightening dragon, which reminds me of the snake. It even frightened Harold. He backed away. His hand holding the purple crayon shook. And suddenly he realized what was happening. But by then, Harold was over his head in an ocean. He came up thinking fast, and in no time he was climbing aboard a trim little boat. This is kind of like Goodnight Moon. The moon's always there. He quickly set sail, and the moon sailed along with him. After he had sailed long enough, Harold made land without much trouble. He stepped ashore on the beach, wondering where he was. He put an anchor there in case he had to come back. The sandy beach reminded Harold of picnics, and the thought of picnics made him hungry. So he laid out a nice sample picnic lunch. I remember once when we were kids, we had a picnic with Paula Porter and her family, Maury and Carol Porter. And Carol had never been on a picnic before. And after the picnic, Carol was sort of a very proper person. And after the picnic, we asked her how she liked picnics, or what she thought of the picnic. And she said, as far as I can tell, a picnic is when you go outside and you eat on the dirt. I thought it was funny. So he laid out a simple picnic lunch. I don't think she wanted to do another picnic. It was kind of like when we took Bubby Josie out to the sand. Just an old story. When Bubby Josie lived in Manhattan Beach for 30 plus years. And she went on the Strand every day, the concrete path. And then she moved, and actually in all those 30 years she lived in Manhattan Beach, she never even set foot on the sand. For decades. So then she moved to a new place, that little apartment, wherever it was. And we said, okay, Josie, let's go out and we'll have you step on the sand. You've been living on the beach for years. So we got her to do it. And then at the end I said, well, Josie, how did you like it? Would you do it again? She goes, no, I'd never do that again. So she hadn't missed anything in the 30 years that she was on the beach and didn't go on the sand. There was nothing but pie. Okay, so he laid out a simple picnic lunch. There was nothing but pie. But there were all 9 kinds of pie that Harold liked best. Now he asked the question, why only pie? And well, how come there's 9 kinds and they all look the same but they're all different? Okay. When Harold had finished the picnic, there was quite a lot left. He only ate about a quarter of each pie, or a third. He hated to see so much delicious pie go to waste. So Harold left a very hungry moose and a deserving porcupine to finish it up. Look how skinny the moose is. He could use the weight. Strange to porcupine. Porcupine. And off he went, looking for a hill to climb to see where he was. Harold knew that the higher up he went, the farther he could see, so he decided to make the hill into a mountain. If he went high enough, he thought, he could see the window of his bedroom. He was tired, and he felt he ought to be getting to bed. Look, he's going up the mountain, and the moon is staying in the same place, but he's getting above the moon. Now, the moon's always been above him. Now he's above the moon. He hoped he could see his bedroom window from the top of the mountain. But as he looked down over the other side, he slipped. And there wasn't any other side of the mountain. He was falling in thin air. But luckily, he kept his wits and his purple crayon. This is just like when he was drowning in the ocean, except now he's falling in the air. Another catastrophe averted. He made a balloon and he grabbed onto it. And he made a basket under the balloon big enough to stand in. He had a fine view from the balloon, but he couldn't see his window. He couldn't even see a house. So he made a house with windows. And he landed the balloon on the grass in the front yard. And he drew in the grass. None of the windows was his window. He tried to think where his window ought to be. he made some more windows. He made a big building full of windows. He made lots of buildings full of windows. He made a whole city full of windows. But none of the windows was his window. He couldn't think where it might be. He's looking up. He decided to ask a policeman. The policeman pointed the way Harold was going anyway. But Harold thanked him. And he walked along with the moon, wishing he was in his room and in bed. Then suddenly Harold remembered. He remembered where his bedroom window was. When there was a moon. It was always right around the moon. His bedroom window was right around the moon. So he drew the window right around the moon to start building his bedroom, and then Harold made his bed. He got in it, and he drew up the covers. He made his bed. He actually drew his bed. And then he drew up the covers. He's drawing the covers. It's a pun. He drew up the covers. The purple crayon dropped on the floor, and Harold dropped off to sleep. Another classic. Harold and the Purple Crayon. So this is one of the great children's books, and I loved reading it. And there's a lot going on in this book. It's quite multi-layered, as were the Boynton books. There's more going on in the Boynton books than it first appears. So this is the wheels on the bus. One of the questions is why are they going to Orange Street? I don't know the answer to that. It's the traditional song adapted and illustrated by Paul O. Zielinski. And there's a lot of characters here. There's a dog. This guy's key. This is where they're going. They're going to, well, you'll find out. And also these people play a role. The people that they introduce, a lot of times they keep on coming up. And also I'd just like to note that there's a Zeppelin up here, or a blimp, which is appropriate because the book's about a bus, and that Goodyear blimp is a blimp from a tire company. Paper Engineering by Roger Smith, and it's for Anna and Rachel. And here, I think they sort of keep on introducing. See, all these characters, like there's the dog. They come back all over the book. So. The wheels on the bus go round and round, round and round, round and round. The wheels on the bus go round and round, all over town. He's running to catch up with the bus. And this guy, I don't know why he's going after this guy, but oh, I see what's going on. There's a cat in this box, and the dog is going after the cat. This is a complicated book. The doors on the bus go open and shut, open and shut, open and shut. The doors on the bus go open and shut, all over town. Now notice how this guy, with his guitar, looks a lot like this guy with his guitar. And this lady looks up with her groceries, looks a lot like this lady with her groceries. The people on the bus step out and in, out and in, out. And we've used this book so many times we can't. The people on the bus step out and in, all over town. There's the lady with her money. Here's the boy with his box. There's a cat in there. And the dog is still chasing the cat. And the guitar player is reading the paper. And there's stuff going on here that's all tied in. The driver on the bus says, move on back, move on back, move on back. The driver on the bus says, move on back, all over town. This guy's in trouble. He's protected from the rain, but he's not protected from the bus. And the dog is still going after the cat. The windows on the bus slide up and down, up and down, up and down. The windows on the bus slide up and down, all over town. The wipers on the bus go swish, 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 swish. The wipers on the bus go swish, 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 all over town. Something's happening with this guy. We'll see him again. Oh, there he is. And now they're going to Orange Street. Now I still don't know why it's Orange Street, but it started getting rainy. The riders on the bus go bumpity bump, bumpity bump, bumpity bump. The riders on the bus go bumpity bump, all over town. They're a little disconcerted. And I think this, oh yeah, that's where the cat gets out. See, the cat gets out of the box there. And that causes a problem later on. And that's probably why what's going to happen on the next page happens. Because all the babies got woken up from the bumpity bump. The babies on the bus cry, wah, 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 wah. The babies on the bus cry, wah, 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 all over town. This kid can't stand the noise. This kid might realize that he lost one of his cats, or maybe the cat came back. The mothers on the bus go shh, 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 shh. The mothers on the bus go shh, 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 all over town. Oh look, this lady, all her groceries landed on the floor. So now she's picking them up. This guy's catching the dog. Well, there's that dog from the very front page. And then the guy from the bus there goes, wait, you forgot this. Oh, there's the cat that he's missing. And she goes, shh, he's sleeping. Mommies always want to keep the kids sleeping, because then they have free time. And the bus driver goes, end of the line. And guess what happens? Oh, that's interesting. Overtown Public Library. You know how they said the bus goes all over town? That's because it's in Overtown. And guess who's playing on the show today? This guy. People are coming to the concert. So that's good. And instead of having lions, they have a doggy and a kitty. And then they do a rerun. Round and round. Okay, so then they have the people on the bus go out and in, out and in, out and in. Oh, they go out the back and they come in the front. The driver on the bus goes, move on back, move on back, move on back. The driver on the bus goes, move on back, all over Westlake Village. The windows on the bus go up and down, up and down, up and down. The windows on the bus go up and down, all over town. Notice how it's sunny over here, and then they have to put the windows up because it got rainy over this part of town. And then they go swish, swish, swish. The wipers go swish, swish, swish. And they had budget cuts here, so they couldn't automate it. And then they go, and the people on the bus go bumpity bump, bumpity bump, and the kids cry, wah, 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 wah. The bus goes bumpity bump all over town. The mothers on the bus go shh, 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 all over town. And then the wheels on the bus go round and round, round and round, round and round. The wheels on the bus go round and round, all over town. So I just want to point out, these good books that you read over and over again, they got lots of stuff going on in them. There's multiple layers of what's going on and on. And here's the back of the book, and here's the guitar player. And that's pretty much it. Here's the original song. So I was talking to Josh on Sunday, and I was telling him about this recording that we're doing of the books, and that one of the comments I had made in one of the books was that Isidore Rabi, who is some relation to Gavi Rabi, and became a Nobel Prize winner in physics, his mother used to ask him every day when he came home from school, "Did you ask any good questions today?" And Ellie, the videographer, mentioned to me in a break that she had just watched a movie called Prosecuting Evil about Ben Ferencz on Netflix, which we watched the beginning of, by the way. And she said that his mother asked him the question every day, or one of his parents, what have you done good for humanity today? And I thought, oh, maybe that's a better question. What have you done good for humanity today? And then I thought, well, you know what? They're both good questions, and they're both different questions. But one's maybe not better than the other. But then I thought it's interesting, and maybe coincidental, maybe not, that Ben Ferencz, the guy whose mother asked him if he had done anything good for humanity that day, became a chief prosecutor at the Nuremberg trials. And Isidore Rabi became a Nobel Prize winning whose mother had asked him, "Did you ask any good questions today?" He became a Nobel Prize winning physicist. So the question, the input that their parents gave them may have had some impact on their future activities. One becoming more of a humanitarian, and the other becoming a physical scientist. And then I thought it was very sweet. We were telling this to Daniel, like last night, and he goes, he says, this was so sweet. He says, well, basically he says, well, don't you remember that after we read books at night, we would go through a routine, and the routine was we would say the Shema in Hebrew and then in English, and then we'd say good nights to everybody, and then you'd ask us, what were we grateful for today? And Mom and I were talking about it last night after the phone conversation with Daniel, and we said, you know what? That question is in the same, it's at the same quality level of the other two. It's a very good question, because there's a lot of psychological literature, which Gary Cates shared with us a while back, which says that there's a heavy correlation between being grateful for what you have, or what you are, or where you are, or what you're, being grateful, and being happy. There's a high correlation between happiness and gratefulness. So I don't know what that amounts to, but the one parent asked him one question and he becomes a physicist, the other one becomes a Nuremberg lawyer, and maybe hopefully you guys will become happy. So